Sheila Carter's world imploded the moment Steffy Forrester's fury erupted like a volcano. The insinuation that Sheila had hooked up Taylor Hayes with the very wine that clouded her judgment and led to the fatal crash was more than mere accusation. It was a death knell for Sheila's tenuous standing in the Forrester clan. With Eric's betrayal still fresh in her bones, Sheila no longer wielded his name as a shield against the Logan Forrester onslaught. Stripped of her final protector within the family, she was cast out into a storm of suspicion and contempt. Steffy, shaking with rage and grief, marched into the police station brandishing her sister-in-law's shattered champagne flute as evidence, demanding Sheila's arrest and imprisonment for the role she believed Sheila had played in Taylor's demise. "You'll rot in a cell, you manipulative witch," Steffy spat, eyes blazing with the conviction that Sheila's poisonous influence had finally tipped from deception into murder. The captain on duty exchanged uneasy glances as Steffy recounted how the gift of friendship turned lethal under Sheila's tutelage, how the wine had gone from celebratory elixir to death sentence, and how Sheila's cool, practiced generosity had all the hallmarks of premeditation. Detectives scoured security footage of the bar where Taylor and Sheila had celebrated, examined Sheila's fingerprints on the empty glasses, and traced her calls to ensure the chain of custody for the liquid that would define Sheila's guilt. Meanwhile, the Forrester security team, loyal to Steffy's every command, raided Sheila's apartment, seizing everything from her phone to her personal computer in hopes of uncovering a smoking gun. A message or video revealing Sheila's intent to ensnare Taylor in a deadly trap. As rumors spread through the fashion world like wildfire, tabloid headlines screamed of Sheila's malevolence, aligning her with every dark scheme she'd ever concocted, painting her as the architect of Taylor's downfall. At Forrester Creations, the staff whispered in hallways, stylists exchanged furtive glances, and models trembled at the idea that Taylor's tragic accident might have been orchestrated by the very woman they once regarded as family. Steffy, empowered by the public's outrage, vowed to see Sheila behind bars, certain that justice for Taylor demanded nothing less than the full weight of the law. Yet Sheila Carter, ever the survivor, refused to be driven into the shadows without striking back. As the investigators closed in and Steffy's campaign to defame her reached fever pitch, Sheila unleashed her ultimate bombshell, a clandestine video, recorded in secret, in which she cradled her swollen belly and announced her pregnancy. The flickering webcam footage showed Sheila's serene face as she confessed, in hushed tones, "I carry a Forrester child," the words breaking like thunder in the hearts of all who watched. The revelation was seismic. After years of scheming and manipulation, Sheila now claimed a bond that ran deeper than marriage or friendship, a blood tie that would irrevocably bind her to the family she had long coveted. Yet in the haze of celebration among her loyalists, a crucial detail remained shrouded in mystery. The father of Sheila's unborn child was never named, an omission that sent tongues wagging and socialites gasping. Was it Eric, in a desperate attempt to salvage his crumbling marriage? Could it be Ridge, ensnared in a moment of weakness? Or perhaps it was even Finn, the dutiful son-in-law, helplessly drawn in by Sheila's webs of sympathy and deceit? The question hung over Los Angeles like a storm cloud, darkening the Forrester legacy and sending the fashion world spiraling into chaos. Industry insiders speculated that if the father was Eric, it would shatter the marital ties between Eric and Donna, further fracturing the founding pillars of Forrester Creations. If Ridge was implicated, it would ignite a scandal that threatened to topple the entire design house, and if Finn were the father, the moral outrage would be compounded by the betrayal of familial trust. Headlines exploded. Sheila's shocking secret, a Forrester on the way. Which Forrester fathered Sheila's child? Baby scandal rocks LA fashion community. As the gossip mill churned, the boardroom at Forrester Creations became a war zone of denial and dread, with Katie Logan demanding a public statement to contain the fallout, and Brooke Logan struggling to reconcile her own complicated history with Sheila's brazen claim of motherhood. Into this maelstrom stepped Steffi, whose resolute campaign against Sheila now threatened to crumble under the weight of her adversary's revelation. To accuse Sheila of poisoning Taylor had once seemed straightforward, righteous even, but now the stakes had multiplied. If Sheila was about to give birth to a Forrester heir, then to imprison her would be to cast the unborn child into orphanhood before it saw the light of day. Steffi's righteous indignation faltered as her conscience wrestled with the potential consequences. Could she, in good faith, campaign for Sheila's incarceration when her adversary's child might one day carry the Forrester name into the next generation? The very thought of Dennis Forrester's bloodline, tainted by the fallout of a vendetta, froze Steffi's resolve. Friends and colleagues watched as Steffi grappled with the paradox. To protect her family's legacy, she had to choose between binding Sheila in chains and shielding a blood relative who had not yet drawn breath. In hushed conversations, Steffi and Finn pored over legal statutes and ethical treatises, searching for a path that would punish Sheila's culpability without condemning an innocent life. Finn urged restraint. "We cannot condemn the child for the mother's sins," he cautioned, citing precedents of legal guardianship and the primacy of a fetus's rights. But Steffi, whose protective instincts had saved her son from Sheila's clutches before, found her maternal armor cracking under the weight of the decision. Every fiber of her being rebelled at the thought of Sheila walking free, yet the notion of destroying her own half-sibling before it could even take a breath felt like a betrayal of the very family she fought to defend. As the legal teams mobilized, Forrester Creations teetered on the brink of implosion. Eric, stunned by the news of Sheila's pregnancy, vacillated between denial and guilt, his anguish adding another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. He confronted Sheila in a tense boardroom showdown, his voice cracking. "How could you keep something so monumental from me?" Sheila's calm admission, "I wanted to protect you, and our child," until the moment was right, only intensified Eric's despair. Donna, caught between loyalty to her husband and horror at Sheila's machinations, threatened divorce and the dissolution of their empire unless they could find a way to defuse the scandal. Brooke and Ridge, witnessing the chaos their rival had unleashed, realized with sinking hearts that the Forrester name, the brand they had devoted their lives to build, now rested on the fragile precipice of public opinion and legal peril. The fashion elite whispered that magazine spreads would shift from runway trends to courtroom dramas, and that season launches would give way to congressional hearings. Katie, sensing the moment had arrived to strike a decisive blow, pressed for an injunction against Sheila, aiming to remove her from Erie's orbit entirely, while simultaneously drafting a press release to clarify that the unborn child's father was not yet determined, in hopes of containing the rumor mill. But press release or no, the cameras and microphones had already descended upon the Forrester estate, capturing every tear, every glare, every quiver of outrage on the faces of the family's scions. Amid this swirling vortex of hatred, love, and blood ties, Steffi's heart bore the heaviest burden. Night after night, she paced the halls of the mansion, tormented by the dual imperative to avenge Taylor and to protect an unborn child who might be her brother or sister. She questioned her own sense of justice. Had she been too ruthless in seeking retribution against Sheila? Would she sacrifice her integrity to shield a potential family member? The internal conflict mirrored the external chaos, and Steffi realized that this crisis would define not just the future of Forrester Creations, but the moral compass of the entire Forrester lineage. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Taylor's face gone too soon. And then the flicker of Sheila's video, where a gentle smile promised new life. Could she, in honoring one memory, dishonor the other? The answer eluded her as subpoenas flew and lawyers sharpened their arguments. The courtroom would soon decide whether Sheila Carter would stand trial for her alleged role in Taylor's death, whether a restraining order would bar her from Eric's side, and whether the unborn Forrester would inherit a legacy of scandal or one of forgiveness. In the end, the scandal shook the fashion world to its core, forcing editors and designers to reckon with the human drama behind the glitz and glamour. Front-page editorials decried the cruelty of judging a mother before birth, op-eds argued the legalities of prenatal personhood, and talk show hosts dissected every frame of Sheila's video, speculating on the paternity tests that would determine the child's fate. Through it all, the Forrester family stood at a crossroads. Would they fracture under the strain of competing loyalties, or would they find a way to balance justice for Taylor with compassion for an unborn life? Steffi's next move would seal the family's destiny, whether she would throw Sheila to the merciless machinery of the law or extend a tentative hand to protect the child of her greatest enemy. And so, beneath the spotlights and beneath the whispers of the runway, the Forrester legacy teetered between vengeance and mercy, its fate hinging on a choice as old as time, to condemn or to forgive. This week on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful, the air is thick with tension and possibility as Brooke Logan finds herself staring down a life-altering revelation that will force her onto a crossroads she never expected. For months, Brooke has poured out her heart to Ridge Forrester, begging him to welcome her back after yet another round of passion and betrayal, only to have him repeatedly turn away, his loyalty to his ex-wife Taylor Hayes seeming steadfast. Yet when Ridge uncovers the truth that Brooke has rekindled a relationship with her half-brother Nick Marone, the very man she once married and then left behind, a long-buried spark of jealousy flares in Ridge's chest. The man renowned for unwavering resolve now finds himself caught between his desire for stability with Taylor and the lingering, combustible magnetism he can never fully extinguish when it comes to Brooke. As Ridge's emotions roil like storm-tossed waves, his restraint begins to crack, and Taylor, sensing the change in Ridge's demeanor, launches every emotional lifeline she can muster to salvage the engagement she fought so hard to secure. She pleads with Ridge in hushed tones, reminding him of quiet mornings spent side by side, of promises whispered under the cover of darkness, of the vision of a future she dared to share with him, yet despite her fervent efforts, Ridge's gaze drifts increasingly toward Brooke, whose influence seems to eclipse Taylor's earnest devotion. Brooke, meanwhile, learns of Ridge's turmoil in the harshest way possible. A private conversation leaked by a mutual acquaintance, a voice message she never meant to hear, revealing Ridge's raw admission that a part of him still aches for her. The realization stuns Brooke to her core. All along she believed she had moved on with Nick, that their laughter and shared history had carved out a new chapter for her heart. Captain Nick Marone, ever the romantic rogue, has been waiting patiently for Brooke to rediscover the warmth they once shared. Late-night dinners overshadowed by unspoken tension, casual touches that linger into heated embraces, the heady thrill of a romance that once defined both their lives. He fanned the embers of their past, hoping Brooke would realize that what she craved in Ridge was something Nick could give in spades, loyalty unshaken by the ghosts of ex-spouses, a quieter life free from corporate intrigues. The kind of love story that didn't come with a dozen ex-wives and tangled rivalries. Yet the specter of Ridge, with his tall frame and piercing blue eyes, looms larger than any promise Nick can offer. Brooke finds herself torn between two men who represent different versions of herself: the wild, impulsive woman who thrived on Ridge's creative chaos, and the more measured partner Nick needs, who could anchor her in steadiness if only she would let him. Across town, Taylor, hurt to her bones yet desperate not to lose Ridge, flings herself into damage control. She arranges a private dinner atop the Forrester skyscraper, candlelight shimmering against the backdrop of the city below, and pours her heart out to Ridge once more. She begs him to remember why he proposed in the first place, the way their hands fit together, the ease of their conversations, the sense of calm she bestowed upon his restless spirit. Taylor's tears glisten in the soft lighting of the penthouse as she spins memories like a lifeline, dragging Ridge back to the moments before Brooke's voice message shattered their fragile peace. But Ridge, looking down at the city lights, sees Brooke's image flicker in his mind, recalls the way she storms into a room with unbridled confidence or curls up beside him on the couch in a rare moment of vulnerability. He realizes that Taylor's quiet strength, as admirable as it is, cannot compete with the roaring flame that Brooke ignites within him, yet he also knows that a life with Brooke would mean endless upheaval, a perpetual dance between the love he feels and the stability he craves. As if that weren't enough, news of Brooke's impending decision spreads through Los Angeles's elite fashion circles like wildfire. At Forrester Creations, colleagues whisper in hushed tones behind closed doors. Will Brooke return to Nick and finally embrace a life untethered from Ridge's mercurial heart? Or will she forgive Ridge, take his hand once more, and risk the crucible of his family's disapproval? Designers clash over runway looks inspired by the drama, bold reds for Brooke's passionate resolve, muted grays for Taylor's somber heartache, stormy blues for Ridge's conflicted spirit, each color telling a chapter of a saga that has gripped audiences for decades. In the plush salons where Taylor and Brooke once stood as rivals, now they find themselves bound by a shared anxiety. Both women love Ridge with every fiber of their beings, and both know he stands at the juncture of their destinies. Brooke's friends counsel her to choose stability, to cherish the dependable devotion Nick offers. Nick himself, patient and hopeful, waits at the helm of a yacht moored in Marina del Rey, envisioning a future where Brooke greets sunrises by the water rather than deals in boardrooms, or serves champagne to Ridge's creative partners. Yet Brooke, torn between her impulsive nature and her yearning for peace, cannot bring herself to step aboard Nick's vessel while Ridge's confession still rings in her ears. In the background, Katie Logan watches the drama unfold with no small degree of satisfaction. She has long harbored reservations about Brooke's endless pendulum swings between men who love her fiercely, and she sees in Nick the kind of partner who could ground Brooke, save her from heartbreak's most vicious turns. Katie urges Brooke to remember her worth, to choose a love that doesn't force her into the shadows of another woman's promises. But Katie also senses that Ridge's indecision speaks to a deeper truth. Brooke's pull on Ridge isn't just about the two of them, it's woven into the very fabric of Forrester Creations, into the legacy of a dynasty built on family, creativity, and scandal. To win Ridge back would be to rewrite history. To move on with Nick would be to step off that stage entirely and chart a new course for herself. As the week unfolds, Brooke must navigate clandestine phone calls, heart-wrenching confessions, and emotional confrontations that leave her breathless. She and Ridge steal a moment alone in the quiet sanctuary of the Forrester rooftop garden, surrounded by the scent of jasmine and the hum of the city below, each word heavy with unspoken longing. Ridge takes Brooke's hand, his eyes glistening with emotion, and asks the question she has dreaded: "Who do you choose?" In that electric moment, Time seems to freeze. Brooke feels the weight of every choice she has ever made. The first blush of romance with Ridge in his father's workshop. The passionate night she fled to Paris with Nick. The silent tears she shed over failed reconciliations. The hope that tomorrow could be different. She knows that whichever path she takes will reshape her life irrevocably, that love and loss dance on the same knife edge, and that one word, yes to Nick, yes to Ridge, will echo through the corridors of their intertwined destinies for years to come. Viewers, poised on the edge of their seats, will witness Brooke Logan's crucible of the heart as she grapples with the most agonizing decision of her storied life. Will she surrender once more to the reckless, soul-stirring flame of Ridge Forrester, embracing the exhilarating highs and perilous lows that only he can offer? Or will she finally claim the steady shore represented by Captain Nick Marone, charting a new course guided by loyalty, trust, and the promise of calmer seas? One thing is certain. Brooke's choice will send shockwaves through every corner of Los Angeles' fashion and social elite, forever altering the landscape of love, legacy, and ambition on the bold and the beautiful. Prepare for a week of passion, betrayal, and revelation where every whispered confession and stolen glance propels Brooke toward a destiny she cannot yet foresee, and where, in the end, the only certainty is that nothing will ever be the same again.